anybody else got any comments on that particular point? Jeff?
Yeah.
And then I've got one at the back.
Jeff Barton again. Nobody can deny that we want riders to be as competent and as safe as possible. But with rider numbers falling, this is just another hurdle, another hoop to jump through. Is this going to be for single race, hunt races as well? Is this all riders?
Yeah, I mean, because you can't. So if you, Jeff, as you'll probably know, you can't tell what an accident's where it's coming from. And if you said, okay, why should it be any less dangerous to ride in a hunt race than an open race?
Oh, that's right. I just wanted to clarify.
So the fact is, you'd leave yourself open to a very difficult situation.
Putting these things in place is I don't disagree with the principle of it, but there must be a balance. We must try not to keep piling things up, which does nothing but dissuade people from taking part.
Yeah, you're right. We want to remove bureaucracy. We don't want a nanny state. This sport is about going out there and having a lot of fun. But there are, we just have to do what we have to do in terms of.
Yeah, well, let's say just
Jeff,
take
if I may say so, one of the things that dissuades the footfall of people coming to watch point to point is when riders and horses are injured. And that is absolutely right. I cannot. There are lots of things I could find to disagree with, but I have to say, it's free and it must be right to assess people before they are allowed to ride in a bike.
Going in with their is it
I've done a ditch on it, literally. It's really
former lady champion?
Nick made a comment earlier about not fixing something if it isn't broken. Seems to me that taking away the need to hunt has caused endless problems. You now, not only the argument we had earlier, and I'm on the coward side in this, now you're saying you've got to teach the jockeys to ride because they can't go hunting or don't need to go hunting. If this had never come in the first place, we wouldn't have wasted the last 40 minutes talking about this, because we would still be hunting, we would still be giving the hunts our money, and the jockeys would still be going hunting. And that's just a comment.
Can we pick up on Chris Coyne and then we'll come back to the panel?
Sorry, Chris Coyne,
Yeah.
member of
Yeah, hold on.
I'm sure you can hear me. Sorry, thank you. It's only going back to an old point, making reference to the shortfall of horses and riders.
Are you on rider assessment or something different?
I beg your pardon?
Are you on rider assessment or something
No,
different?
I'm a retired old geriatric.
No. Can we stick to rider assessment?
You made a point earlier in reference to concern in the room about the shortfall of horses, shortfall of riders. I've just come back from Ireland, had a fantastic time over there socially, gone to the point of points, and I heard a reference made, quoted, 50% of shortfall of horses. Load of bloody rubbish. What has happened is the wheat has been separated from the chaff, and you are getting quality horses running in Ireland. Here, you're getting also runners from the sales, £1,500 horses who have never been able to get out of the way in a cold day in a novice hurdle, turning them at point of points, trying to keep the tail off homebreds, well-bred horses that we are trying to promote for point of pointing, because the young horses is the lifeline of point of pointing.
David, would you just have to comment on that one? You go to Ireland a lot.
Well, I don't know, actually. I haven't been to Norwich point to point for 3 years, but...
Sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Minton.
Turn your thing.
I haven't been to Norwich point to point for 3 years, so I can't really say, but I do agree that 50% down is rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I know that's
Thank
actually
you.
bad. It is rubbish. And they have swayed the young horse over there in more ways than one. 4- and 5-year-old maidens are always divided when the ground gets good. And then you look at their opens, and they have 3 runner races in opens, and their winners of 2, they might get 2 or 3 runners. But as the day goes on, you'll see big fields, maidens, and they're all small fields. I think the same happened to Kinsale. Were you Kinsale, were you?
I was indeed, yes, sir.
And I think that was.
They were all maidens there.
They were all maidens.
All maidens.
Well, exactly, because there's
I
so
didn't
many
see
of
you
them.
there.
I just said I haven't been to Norwich Point for 3 years.
And everyone else's.
I've got the microphone.
Situation with Point in Ireland, even though I live in the UK, I was privileged to go there. I spoke with the Irish National Hunt Board. We are failing here the way we promote the sport. I appreciate there's got to be a market for horses to go somewhere, but we are getting also runners from National Hunt, who you know yourself, have paid a lot of money for, made no success, and go to pointing. But they're competing against a market you're trying to promote at the moment, the young horse. And they're running behind them, or in front of them, which is degrading. And it doesn't give the young lads here the chance of riding. But that is where one of the main problems are.
I think you're talking rubbish, actually. Absolute rubbish, anyway.
Can we go back to the point that Andrew Sanson made, and I'm going to ask the panel this, and how we can encourage perhaps owners and riders who want to, perhaps the true amateur, perhaps the grassroots, how we can encourage them into the sport and stay in the sport. And I want to go then back to you guys out there to see what your comments are, because at the end of the day we are having a lot of 4-year-olds and going forward and having a lot of success with that, but without any doubt we've also got to get the balance right, so there are other grassroots point-to-point enthusiasts coming through as well. I'll just be interested to know what the panel have to think about that. But I'm going to start with Andrew.
You looked it up, that's why.
No, I'll change my mind.
Well, nobody's mentioned pony racing. I mean, surely pony racing is the best possible way to get children involved. And it's working. And so that would be the only conclusion I could make to that specific point. You can't force people to do things that they don't want to do.
David.
This year I've had more orders for schoolmasters. I've bought 3 already. I've got another 4 for all new boys coming into the sport. All girls, yeah, but both, yes, some girls, yes. one girl, but basically they're all young. They haven't, none of them written in the point, and they're all. I bought 3, as I say already. I've got 3 or 4 more to buy, and they're prepared to give good money for these horses as well. For a good schoolmaster, I bought 1 already, obviously.
David, can I ask if you've got orders for second season?
Yes, absolutely, yes. I've got, and they are upgrading into the second season, boys. They want slightly better horses.
I will come to.
They're all old horses, I might add, but anyway.
Nick.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, we've said it, pony racing, I think a lot of the kids coming into the sport these days have a much better view through television as to what racing's all about. They want to come in, they want to do it the proper way, I think. And by the proper way, I mean, I think we are seeing the standard of riding is improving significantly. I think pony racing has a lot to do with that. I think this jockey assessment, to have the opportunity to be mentored by a top professional jockey as an amateur starting out, I think is a massive opportunity. I think to go against what Chris was saying, I think you need cheap horses to come in. That doesn't mean to say they're bad horses. They're cheap horses, they do a job. I mean, if you start driving, you don't necessarily go and buy a BMW to start your driving on. You start on something a little bit more modest than that. Exactly the same with racing, with horses. You start off on a good, solid, hopefully reasonably priced horse. And I think the more people we can get into the sport, the better.
Alan, you're very good at bringing some young novice riders through.
I think there's 2 things that have happened in recent years. One is the introduction of novice riders races. That's got to have helped the owner rider and the person come in because they're riding in a race specially designed for them. And the second one was that was brought in was the £5 allowance for the new rider as well, which is going to be extended to a larger area of races. Those 2 things as well as been encouragement. I've had a lot of owner riders, novice riders come to me over the years. We always try and have a novice rider every year come to the yard and give them a winner and send them on their way. Fergus Gregory being one, who's now doing very well at Ollie Murphy's. And I feel it's very important. And what the co-panel have said about pony racing and all that as well. I feel that we are taking it seriously, that we want these people to come into the sport, and we're trying very hard to do all we can to encourage them.
I think, first of all, I would think we should all extend a thank you to all the people who do organise pony racing. They're marvellous people, and we're very lucky to have them. There's a comment on the floor.
Caroline Bailey, long-term producer of owner riders through first myself and then Gerald for at least 30 years. I still think you're missing the point with the weights. You keep putting them lower and lower. £5 allowances. My owner riders of the past, they can't claim. So why you keep dropping these weights to encourage owner riders into the sport? They want to be able to ride at 12 stone. We've just lost two of our best amateurs in the Midlands, South Midlands area, Johnny Bailey and Sam Davis-Thomas, because they've had to struggle so hard doing the weights. And the reasons they've given up, one of them is because they can't keep wasting to do low weights. Thank you.
David, do you want to reply to that?
No.
No. Anybody else on the panel want to reply?
Yeah, can I just
Yes,
mention something
go
about
on.
weights? Look, being a rider or a jockey is a discipline. It's a sport that requires a lot of dedication. You're lucky if you don't have to diet. I mean, most of the people in this room I know have to diet. I'm 2.5 stone heavier than I was when I was riding. It's part of the game. I think you're right, we don't want to push the weights too low, because then I think that does knock out a fair number. But equally, we've got to understand how the horses evolve. The horses that we now have point-to-pointing have been bred to a finer degree. They have generally less bone, they're smaller. You can't pile more and more weight on top of the horse. So you've got to have a balance, is what I'm saying.
Nick Bostock again. We still do have the option to run races off 12 stone 5 weight range to start a little higher, and it may be that you need to encourage your framing of races that some of them are run off a 12.5 weight range and then working down from there rather than 12 stone.
I'm going to pick up on Tim Sage next over here.
Carl Evans is going to step in there and just
Okay,
say,
Carl, go on.
you know, horses like Chestnut Annie and this horse from this season, a Soccer Star, they're going up and down Welsh mountains with big Welsh lads on their back. They're very fit and they don't break their backs. I'm disagreeing entirely with Nick Sutton's comment there about the way we're breeding these small horses.
Maria, over here. Okay. Right down here.
Am I on? Okay. Tim Sage, West Midlands area rep. I'll begin by commenting on that last remark. My very insignificant riding career, I rode 6 winners, 4 of them were on 3 different very tiny horses. One was 15.2, the other 2 were 15.3, and in my day we all carried 12.7 plus penalties. So I don't really buy this idea that a lot of horses can't carry this weight. But as far as the falling numbers is concerned, I think we've got to ask ourselves the question, where are these horses that we would like to come into the sport? As far as I know, the foaling returns show that the number of horses which have been born, really the number of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds on the ground is much, much lower than it was 10 years ago after the financial recession. A lot of mares were culled. So where are these extra horses? There aren't many horses around which are good enough to compete in point-to-points or under rules that aren't doing it already. The reality is, if we want more horses, we've got to make it more welcoming to bad horses, because those are the only ones that are available to come into the sport. Or we have to really think outside the box and consider races for non-thoroughbreds, because that increases the pool of horses that are available. All horses nowadays are microchipped and should have passports, so there isn't really an administrative problem as far as I see, and there are people who hunt regularly or take part in team chases on half-breds who might be tempted to have a go. So if we either allow them to come in or even have specialist races for them, that could help there. I would like to talk about the weight for age scale. Shall I do that now, or do I?
Do that now, direct a question at David
Okay.
now, and then we'll move on to that.
Well, David has said that it's governed by the BHA, and I think we've got to recognise now that we have two classes of point-to-points, or arguably more, but we have the 2 mile flat race, and we have the 2.5 mile plus steeplechase, or race over point-to-point fences. Now, as far as the 2 mile flat race is concerned, the BHA has a completely different weight for age scale for a 2 mile flat race.
Your question very brief.
So what I'm saying is, should we not adopt a weight for age scale for a point-to-point bumper, which is similar to the BHA? We had a situation where a point-to-point bumper was run at Hereford, where the 4-year-olds had a £21 an allowance. If that race had been run on the same course, on the same day, as a National Hunt flat race, they would have received just £6. That seems bonkers to me, frankly.
Let's let David come back straight
You
back
obviously
on
haven't
that.
read the article we sent out last week, saying that we would be rectifying the bumper weight range. That's already been done. That is going to be discussed at the next meeting and will be changed.
Whilst we're on flat races, David, can you explain sort of the direction of travel as far as you see it, as far as flat races are concerned?
Well, we had 6 this year, and 5 of them were divided, so the popularity. People seem to like them as a betting medium at the point of 3 I went to. They liked them as betting. They're the good competitive races, and some nice young horses have come out of it, and some of them have been sold very well. And I think the possibility we'd have 2 more around the, see how it goes. But it was so popular, and as I say, brought more horses into the sport. And on the commercial side, they've sold well. So I think we'll have 2 more, make it up to 8. But as I say, 5 of them are divided. Anik had a good field in theirs. So I'm encouraged by the bumpers.
Andrew, do you have any comments on flat races?
Only that I think, as I said in my introduction, I think that trying to be innovative and you don't have to, may not be for everybody, is terribly important. And I have to declare an interest about a slither of a couple of horses one horse who won a flat race this year, and I went for, yes. So I think that, yes, I think it's a good idea, but I think the weight for point is a good one. Can I answer Tim's point about bad horses, or less good horses, perhaps the majority? I don't agree about non-thoroughbreds, but that's because it's been tried rather unsuccessfully by ARA, as you probably know. But I do agree about programming races for less good horses. And every single point I went to this year, the race with the biggest field, and one quite late in the season, which was divided on the field, was the conditions race. And they each had complicated conditions, not that complicated, but attractive conditions for horses that were constantly bumping up against good horses. And so that's about programming. And so if I can take that one, I agree with you completely.
And I would completely agree with that the fixtures do have to be innovative in what they put in their schedule of races, and not just do the same year on year. And it's terribly important that they do move with the times at the end of the day. And again, if you want to give opportunities for that owner trainer, the true amateur, then you can frame a race accordingly at the end of the day. I want to come back.
Can I bring back to him about the breeding side?
Yeah, go on.
Now, most of the horses, as you well know, there's a gross overproduction of horses in Ireland, but over in England there is certainly not. It's down. The numbers are down. But I think I'm encouraged this year because Overbury, Stud, Shade Oak and Yorton Farm have covered more mares this year. Also from France and from Ireland, admittedly, but they've covered a lot more from the English breeder. Because the English breeding needs a big boost, and we are seriously struggling for English breeding. And so the man with the farmer who has the mare down the road, they've gone, basically. Now it's all being contained in certain big studs and everything else. But it's encouraging that this year, Jack Hobbs, for instance, he's covered 180 mares. Cave Tara, age 24, has covered 120 mares. Black Sam Bellamy, Scorpion, Telescope, they're absolutely flooded with mares, as is Blue Brazil, Pepper's Moon, etc. So it's encouraging. There will be more horses, hopefully, around in the next few years. But we need to encourage the breeder to do that. That's the whole point.
Has anybody got any other comments on flat races? Particularly? Yes, over there. Caroline Roberts.
Yes. Is that what? Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. Hi, Caroline Robinson, yes. Just say, okay, they've been very popular, these flat races and everything, but how many of those horses that come through these flat races are actually going to progress in point to points? Or are they just going to be sold for a big value and be gone from the scene? Are we in danger of over-commercialising our amateur sport by introducing or pampering too much to these young horses, just so people have the opportunity to make the money, as indeed has been happening in Ireland for decades. It's going one way in Ireland in that, talking to people over there, the young horse maidens are very commercialised, and as David pointed out, the open races and other winners of two are decimated. Are we in danger of going that route? That's my question.
Any other comments on flat races before I come back to the panel? Gentlemen here.
Well, no, I just want to comment what Carol said.
Yeah.
Jonathan Turner. I think the most important thing is we get runners in our races. You know, it doesn't matter where they come from. And just to pick up on one further comment, of course, the reason Ireland has so many young horses is that licensed trainers are allowed to run them in point to points. And until we address this subject, which I know will be unpopular, then I'm afraid we're not going to progress.
That is a perennial problem. Can I go to Len Vickery then, and then we'll come back to the panel?
Yeah, I don't really need a microphone. First of all, I apologise for being late, but we come in Jeremy's car. Second thing I would like to say, I got just the horse that Minty is looking for. I just think, personally, there's a lot of hype about the value of our young horses that we're trying to promote to a sale. And I found out mass of the 4-year-olds that won last year, 18 or 20, whatever won, only 5 of those horses come back in point to points this year. We are trying to set ourselves up the avenue. I want to see the Kingscliff that win the Fox Hunters as a 6-year-old and a point-to-pointer go and win the Gold Cup. And if we keep thinking that we're going to make 150,000 for a novice hurdler and a chaser later, we're barking up the wrong trees, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Alan, would you like to reply to that?
Send me your horse,
You've
lad.
been quiet for a while.
I don't think I can actually, can I?